Today we're going to go over some PlayStation related news and information. Not all of it is the most exciting stuff, but I think there's stuff here that you guys will be interested in. The first has to do with PlayStation Plus and the August lineup. You're going to be looking at Wipeout Omega Collection and Sniper Elite 4. I think that's a pretty solid lineup. I don't think anybody really has any major complaints there. We know that Sniper Elite 4 got some pretty good reviews, and people seem to enjoy that game. Same goes for the Wipeout Omega Collection. I think people will enjoy that as well. So those are going to be the PlayStation Plus games you can get for free for the month of August. Moving on from that, I want to talk about a game called Concrete Genie, which is actually being made by a Sony first-party studio. It's kind of a smaller studio. They're not really the most well-known. I think they're called Pixel Opus, if I'm not mistaken. And Concrete Genie is definitely, I guess, what we would call more of a AA game, something that's smaller, and the price does reflect that. It's going to be about $30, and then you can get the deluxe edition for, I believe, $40, and the game is going to launch on October 8th of this year. So if that's a game you're looking forward to, now you know. If you pre-order the digital deluxe edition, and I think you also get the same bonuses if you get the physical deluxe edition, there's just a bunch of small little bonuses you get with it. You can get the Concrete Genie Pond design pack, the music of Concrete Genie. It's a digital soundtrack, a digital art book, and a lighthouse dynamic theme. But again, they are going to have a physical disc-based version as well, and they will include the VR mode in the physical disc-based version as well. So for this game, I think it looks decent. I don't know if it's really going to be my cup of tea, if I'm being honest. I'm not disliking anything I'm seeing, but it's not a game that's really sticking out or standing out to me. But maybe it is a game that we can try. It is only $30, and I haven't really played much of the smaller titles that Sony has released, and you guys know I've been really focusing on the big AAA titles, which they've been absolutely amazing. So maybe it will be a game that I test out and see how Sony fares in these smaller, more double or single A type games. I know that there's definitely some people who are very excited for this game, so yeah, so we're going to have to maybe check that game out. Moving on from that, though, we are looking at ChinaJoy. This is the conference that Sony held in China, and honestly, I'm not going to go over everything here because there was a lot of announcements. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link an article from Push Square down below because some people were asking me to cover this, but there's just a lot here, and if I'm being honest, a lot of it I'm not really that interested in, but I know some of you are. So in case you missed it, I'm going to link this article down below. It's from Push Square, and it's actually a roundup, a news roundup of everything that was announced during this 2-hour conference. So if that's something you're interested in and you want more information on and you want to know all of the details, just click that link below, check it out. I think they did a good job kind of rounding that stuff up. But moving on from that, we're going to be going over the new PS4 tournament series that is apparently kicking off with Mortal Kombat. Says Sony has announced a new feature for its PlayStation 4 users called PS4 Tournaments Challenger Series, which allows players to compete from their own consoles for a shot at winning prizes. The first of these tournaments will start with Mortal Kombat 11 and are open to anyone from all different skill levels to compete. Some of the prizes include in-game currencies like time crystals from Mortal Kombat 11, as well as actual cash prizes of up to $1,000 so far. The best players will also qualify for bigger tournaments in the future. A post on the PlayStation blog gave an overview of the new tournament series, which is starting on August 6th. Sign-ups are open for the Mortal Kombat 11 tournament, with other games to follow afterwards. Different seasons throughout the Challenger series will give players a chance to return after honing their skills to compete for these prizes, while those who do well will advance to the next stages as the skill level increases. And it doesn't seem like Mortal Kombat 11 is the only game they're going to be doing with this. It seems like they're going to be doing it with FIFA, as well as Battlefield 5 and even Warface, and I'm sure that maybe they'll get more games on board as well. But I actually thought this was pretty interesting. I haven't really seen anything like this before. I think Microsoft may have done something similar to this, but on a much, much smaller scale. When they, I even forget what it was called, but I think it had to do with like their matchmaking or whatever, where you can basically make your own in-game tournaments. I haven't really used it, and there wasn't really much incentive to do so other than to just compete with your friends, which is cool. But with this here, there's actual prizes you can win, and they're making it really, really accessible, where pretty much anybody can sign up and do this. Anybody can really just try to compete here and actually do well. And if you do well, you can actually win money. So I think that that's pretty cool. I'm going to be interested to see what other games Sony tries to maybe get on board with this initiative. If they're going to be able to get any more games on board, I'm sure they will be able to. And who knows, maybe this is something that they can continue to grow, and it could become a much bigger thing going into next generation with the PlayStation 5. I'm sure that there's a lot of people who would just love to compete in something like this. Knowing that they can just do so from the comfort of just booting up their PlayStation 4 and signing up and participating. So that is very cool. But moving on from that, I want to talk about the news that came out recently that Microsoft's CEO shared with us in regards to their cloud partnership with Sony. And he went on record saying it was all driven by Sony. So this was kind of interesting because Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, in an interview with Fortune, said that this partnership that they have now with Sony was all driven by Sony. And it's interesting to think that, because a lot of people maybe are going to try to make this seem like some kind of bad thing. But the truth is this: the partnership between Sony and Microsoft is not at all a bad thing. We know that in some areas, when it comes to engineering and cloud, and especially, the server infrastructure behind the PlayStation Network, we know that Sony in some ways has always maybe lagged behind, or they just are, they don't have the expertise in some areas that, say, a company like Microsoft does. And I think it's a good thing, honestly. This is just a scenario of Sony trying to improve the PlayStation Network infrastructure, which is going to be great for everybody who utilizes PSN, and things are just going to get better in that case. But it's also Sony's way of just kind of covering themselves and making sure that they have all of the bases covered. I've talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning again, that even though I'm not a fan of cloud gaming, I'm not a fan of the idea of streaming games, I am aware that it is going to be an option that's going to be available through pretty much all gaming companies going forward. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it being an option. You guys know the only time I really start to have a problem with it is when people try to make it sound like this is the future. And you know what? It could be the future in the long term, but I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking I like how I play games now. I like having hardware, tangible physical experience, and I like the concept of ownership as well, or at least as close to it as we can get in today's day and age. And I just don't want to see that go away, and so that's why I really push back against the idea of things like Google Stadia and Project X Cloud, and to an extent even PlayStation Now. But I am well aware that this is something that these companies are going to want to offer in the future, and it's something that Sony has made clear when it comes to PlayStation Now. They're going to continue to expand that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just don't want them to lose their focus, and it doesn't seem like they're going to. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with Sony prioritizing the hardcore market and appealing to its core customer base, and then when that is all taken care of, maybe trying to grow in another area such as the cloud and whatnot, if that's something they want to do. But people often wonder why I have such a problem with Microsoft and their approach. Well, it's because it seems like they're not really taking that approach. It seems to me like they're going in really fast and really hard, honestly, when it comes to their idea of trying to capture that untapped 2 billion gamer market with something like xCloud. Now, there's nothing wrong with them wanting to be ambitious, but considering how much they're struggling on the console front and how much they're struggling with the, capturing the hardcore gamers, it just doesn't look good, in my opinion, when they're pretty much saying, hey, we're not worried about that, we're worried about this other market that we're trying to tap into. Sony's not doing that at all, so that's why I don't give Sony nearly as much flack at the idea of they want to continue to grow PlayStation now. Of course they want to. Of course they want to have a presence within the cloud space, because if it does in the long term end up being the future, regardless of what I think about it as a company, as a business, it's not only in Sony's best interest, but all of these companies' best interest to make sure that they are not, the odd one out, and they're not going to miss out, because we don't know the future. There's nothing wrong with this. Personally, it's nice to see Sony and Microsoft working together. If I honestly had to pick and choose who Sony was going to partner with, I'm glad it's Microsoft, because if there's something Microsoft is really good at as a company, is the cloud and cloud computing in terms of, the type of technology that they offer. There's a reason why they are a $1 trillion company, and I don't think there's anything wrong with Sony utilizing some of, Microsoft's expertise to ultimately improve PlayStation overall. We know that when it comes to the PlayStation division and the Xbox division, Sony and Microsoft are certainly going to remain fierce competitors. At least that's what they claim, and that's what we can hope for, because that's going to be good for everybody in the end. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with them getting together, and I can't say it's a bad thing or that I'm surprised that Sony approached them, because it would be terrible, in my opinion, if Sony came to the conclusion that we are weaker in this area than we should be, and we can't really afford, or we don't have the manpower or the resources at the moment to completely just build our own thing from the ground up. Let's see if we can partner with somebody, and I'm just okay with that. I'm okay with that. Now, if they take a sudden or make a sudden left turn or something come next generation, where they're just suddenly all about the cloud and that's all we're hearing about and that's all they're talking about, that'll be a different conversation. I hope that within the console gaming space, both Sony and Microsoft can continue to remain super competitive and continue to grow that market. A lot of people think I want Xbox to fail. That's not the case at all. I just want them to do better, and I need them to do better, honestly, because I want them to continue to push Sony to do even better. And that's just how this works. That's what we all want at the end of the day. But that's going to do it for the video, guys. I'm already starting to go on a little tangent here. It turned out a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I hope you did enjoy it. Hope you found some of this information useful and helpful. Again, I know it's not the most exciting stuff in the world, but I feel as though it's worth keeping up and bringing out to you guys here. So be sure to leave your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you did enjoy it or you found it helpful. It really helps me out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss any of my videos, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.